You're never too old or never too young to learn. Take the advantage that Fairfax County offers. Look up the free courses. Prepare yourself. Do not go through life unprepared.
Hello, I'm Fran Guasta-Desangi. Welcome to Mature Living. We all know being prepared for emergencies is important, but how do we start and what kinds of emergencies should we prepare for? To get the conversation started on emergency preparedness is Courtney Arroyo, Assistant Coordinator of Communications and Community Engagement with the Department of Emergency Management and Security. Glad that you're with me here, Courtney.
Thanks so much for having me.
So glad that you're here. Tell me what the Department of Emergency Management and Security is. How does it operate in Fairfax County, and what is your role in that?
Sure. So our department, we maintain the county's Emergency Operations Center, and that is ready in case we need it at all times, where we can come together and coordinate with different agencies throughout the county to support whatever incident's going on. And then we also help residents to prepare for, respond to, and recover from emergencies. So our goal is to make Fairfax County the most prepared county that we can.
And has it been in existence for years and years?
Yeah, so in 2004, we became our own agency. So after 9/11, we really ramped up emergency management.
And your role within that agency?
Yeah, so I'm an assistant coordinator and I oversee communications and community engagement. So getting that public information out there is my job.
You're sort of the conduit of information, am I right?
Yes, yeah, and there's a team of us who go out into the community. We attend community events, we do presentations, so we're out there all the time.
Fantastic. So can you explain what a community emergency would be? Like, kind of give us a sense of it, and share some examples of emergencies that we might be likely to encounter here in Fairfax County.
Sure. So we classify emergencies by natural emergencies, man-made emergencies, and then also everyday emergencies. So for example, we see a lot of different weather around here, from extreme heat to extreme cold. We do see snowstorms. We have also encountered an earthquake. And during the summertime, we get a lot of those afternoon thunderstorms, which brings a lot of wind. It could bring a lot of rain, which can cause flooding. So all of those things do happen here. We also have, man-made emergencies where people who may, not be the best people, create a little chaos, and we have to respond to those. And then every day we have house fires, we have apartment fires, car accidents, all of those different things. So we teach the basic principles of preparedness because a lot of this can apply across the board.
So let's talk about what it is that we can do to make sure that we're prepared. And there's a different type of preparedness. So I think the three main types is a shelter in place, and then there's the other is if you have to evacuate immediately, so you need a go bag for that. And then the third, it seems, if you have something in your car, so in case that you're stuck, to your point, in a very bad traffic accident or a weather situation, you have some water, some snacks, that kind of thing. So am I right about those being the big three?
Yes.
And then tell me what goes into each go bag.
Sure. So one of the things that we did a couple of years ago, we operate in the county by an emergency operations plan, and we created an emergency operations plan for residents. So we have customized what you can do before, during, and after emergencies. We list all of the different hazards that we have and what you can do before, during, and after for those specific hazards. But in there, we talk about how to plan for emergencies, we have a template that will help you put together your plan. And then we also have checklists. So for each of those scenarios, we tell people you should think about a scenario and what you would have to do. So if you are stuck on 95 for 8 hours or 10 hours, what do you have in your car? Or if there's a thunderstorm or a windstorm coming and the government gets out early and it takes you a long time.
Right.
Or we just went through, earlier this year, we had a gas leak and a house explosion where people did have to evacuate their homes, and it was, 10, 11 o'clock at night. Right. So how do you prepare for that? So if we think about putting together that evacuation bag, I call it like your weekend getaway plus your important documents. So what do you need to go away for the weekend?
Okay.
And then what are the important documents that you may need if you can't get back to your house immediately?
So 2 follow-on questions. So it offers a roadmap for all of these scenarios that we're...
Exactly.
And so tell me again, where do we find this roadmap? Tell me what website, how do we access it?
So fairfaxcounty.gov/emergency management. You can find all of the resources there. And then we have individual templates that you can print out. So you don't have to print out the whole guide, but you can print out the checklist and the plan template.
Okay. Now, people are in varying stages with regard to emergency preparedness. And for those who haven't even thought about this subject, it's really daunting. There's so much that is surrounding this whole topic of emergency preparedness. So my question to you is, what 1 or 2 steps can you offer to those who haven't begun yet and feel really overwhelmed? How do they get started?
So they make kits that you can buy, but you can also take the checklist, and so many of those items you have in your house already. So you can take an extra bag that you have at home and start to gather those items, and you slowly build it. You're going to customize your kit to you, to your family. So it's going to depend on the items that you choose to put in there.
So if you were going to use something like a shelter in place, maybe a suitcase or one of those plastic tubs might be appropriate. And maybe for a go bag, maybe a knapsack or
a backpack.
A backpack?
Yeah, a backpack or a small rolling suitcase is a great thing. So a rolling suitcase, you don't actually have to pick it up, you can roll it. So depending on the scenario, or a backpack is great. And each person in your family should have their own backpack.
And then it seems to me that everyone has different needs. So you've got to take that into consideration. To your point, make them believe that you're going away for a weekend. What do you need? And then you add the important documents onto that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So the resources, again, so our viewers know where they can go so that they can get this step-by-step. Again, can you just remind us about that again?
Sure.
Yeah.
So fairfaxcounty.gov/emergency management. You can find the full community emergency response guide. There's also hazard pages. So for each one of the hazards that I mentioned, and then some, we have a hazard page for each of them. There's also videos in there of what some of those incidents have looked like in Fairfax County and what preparation tips you can take as a resident.
Is there anything that stands out to you in your experience that you want to share? Like, it really kind of brings the point home of the importance of emergency preparedness.
Yeah, I will say during our Centerville incident and having a true evacuation of a neighborhood and seeing that a lot of people did not have these resources. They weren't signed up for Fairfax alerts. They didn't have any go bags. In the days following that, we spent a lot of time escorting residents back just to get some of those basic necessities. So it really kind of made me think, we really need people to put together this information, and it is only beneficial to them. So
Absolutely. And also, too, to your point, that was staff time to go back and forth to their house. But if they had a go bag, that they could have just had that, and
Yeah.
you all could have.
And it's a little less stressful if you have it together, because every time you go home, you're going to think of something else. But if you have that go bag with those basic necessities, then we're happy to bring people back as long as it's safe. But if it's not safe and we can't get back there, having that together is really beneficial.
And so basically, when you're putting together, it's better to do it when you're calm and not stressed.
Of course. And then, of course, you want to make sure that you update your kit. So for the different seasons, you want to make sure that you're taking out those summer clothes and switching them out for winter, making sure your food isn't expired.
Sure.
So twice a year, when you're checking your smoke alarms, it's a great time, and turning your clocks forward or backwards, it's a great activity just to add in to check your emergency kit and swap out some of those items that need to be swapped out.
Courtney, how can residents get emergency information? Because something may be happening and they have no idea. So how does the county reach out to them?
Sure. So we have something called Fairfax Alerts, where residents can go in, they can sign up to get traffic alerts, weather alerts, and then also emergency information. So we use something called a reverse 911, where we send a message to the folks that are signed up, and we can let them know what is going on in that immediate area. A great example is during Centerville, when we had a gas leak and a house explosion, we were able to message with those residents in that area to tell them what was going on and provide information on where they needed to go, what they needed to do. And then we also have the emergency blog, and that is one of the best resources that you can sign up for. You can get notified in your email, but any incident information we're going to post on the emergency blog and provide updates there. With that blog, the newest blog is the first one that you read. So we may set up an incident web page if it's big enough. So for Centerville, we did end up setting up a web page where residents can get resources, but that emergency blog and the notifications is going to be your best.
We could go on, but I'm really glad for this good information. What led you to where you are today?
9/11 happened when I was in middle school. I always liked weather as well, and it kind of led me to go to school. And I was originally studying law and decided that I would do a year of AmeriCorps. So from AmeriCorps, I went on to manage a senior corps program, and one of those core activities was disaster preparedness. So I really, when I walked into the Fairfax County Emergency Operations Center for the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, this is where I need to be, and I made it a goal. So I went back to school, I got my master's degree, and then eventually came back and now work for the county.
I'm so glad that you do the work that you do, and the rest of the staff as well. Courtney, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Later in the show, we'll talk in more detail about how residents can start or continue their emergency prep. But first, we'll hear from a senior who was very involved in emergency preparedness and why this topic is so important to her.
Well, it sort of started when I was a kid, mainly because I lived in California. Guess what California has? Earthquakes. And we had a few, and I grew up with that. So and I'm sorry, but my parents didn't know anything about emergency preparedness. If you can cook, you can take care of yourself. And if you have the proper ingredients, the proper supplies, then you can take care of your family as well. Before the emergency, you have to try out the meals and the snacks and things so you know what you like and what you don't like, and also what your family likes and hate. Because if they don't like what you got, they're not going to eat it. And everybody has a different preference. For me, I don't like prepared meals. I like to make my own stuff. So I dry my own fruit. I pick my persimmons, and during the summer I dry them and I store them in jars, and they'll last for a year. Look at the expiration date, and you need to rotate your food. Not on the last date. Be because you don't want something to expire next week and then a disaster happens this week. You only have a week. For instance, for myself, I would just have a basic go bag. I'm not on any medication at all, so I would not think about medication. I like to think of a week, not a few days. I have a week's worth of clothes. I have my suitcase. It's all packed with essentials. And also you have to vary depending on the weather. You review your bag every so often to ensure that you are in the proper season and that nothing's expired and that you have all that you need. If it's an emergency and I'm going to be in the house, I have lots of water. I have 1 gallon bottles, plastic. I use them for flushing the toilet, and I would use them for washing my hands and my dishes. The most important go bag that you want first, and the reason why it's important is because it's pre-packed. You want to have it ready for any time you are going to leave your home. And so this is and it doesn't have to be gigantic. You want enough clothes in there for a few days, anything that you need. If you're on medication, you need to have your medication in here so that when you are going to leave, you just pick it up and go. If you have important papers that you need, then they should also be in your go bag. And you can have certified copies as long as they're certified so they're legal, then make sure they're in your bag. Anything that you can think of goes in that one bag so that you can just pick it up and go out there. You don't want multi-bags because then it makes the departure a lot more difficult. You want to make it as easy as possible. My little bags usually have a pair of gloves. It has a space blanket to keep people warm and in case they go on the shock or it's cold weather. And then we have little washcloths which you can use as compression bandages. You can take it out, put it on the wound. If you're bleeding really badly, you put it on top of you, apply pressure. One of the other things you can do too, if you wear glasses like I do, and I'm always losing my pens, so I have my glasses and I have a few extra pens in there, so I'm going to write some stuff. This is a purchased bag. Online, you can go online and you can buy pre-packaged emergency kits. And this is one that I was gifted on my birthday. And this is for a splint. Here's your space blanket. And you've got here's Q-tips, and you've got different little things in here, bandages. Think about yourself first. Think about what you can do to help yourself and your family and your neighbors. Go on Fairfax County website and look for Medical Reserve Corps, CERT, Community Emergency Response, and DEMS, because they have programs that you can take for free. I mostly work with CERT at this point because I'm an instructor, and they have an 8-week course with a final on week 8, and it teaches you what to do during an emergency. It gives you the basics, and CERT's main focal point is to give people, everyone, the basic foundation of what to do during an emergency. It makes me happy because I know that if people are learning that they're going to be able to keep themselves safe, they're going to be able to keep their family safe and others safe. And the more people who are safe, the better.
In our first segment, I talked with Courtney Arroyo, Assistant Coordinator of Communications and Community Engagement with the Department of Emergency Management and Security. She provided a great overview of the importance of emergency preparedness. I welcome Crystal Goodwin, the Access and Functional Needs Specialist with the Department of Emergency Management and Security, to talk in more detail on how to get started with emergency preparations. Crystal, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me. Tell me, just to begin our conversation, how long have you been working with this agency? And tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been here with Fairfax County for just about a year now. I was previously working in Texas. What I do here at the county is a lot of community engagement with disability communities and also communities of access and functional needs. So that includes a lot of language access as well. And then on top of the community engagement, we also help plan for Fairfax County to make sure all of our plans are accessible and inclusive.
Excellent. Well, so with our viewers, as they're thinking about emergency preparedness, how do they go about starting making their own emergency kit? Because I would imagine that it's not a one-size-fits-all.
Correct. And it's also, people get very overwhelmed when they think about emergency kits. They think it needs to be this grand production when it really doesn't. It's really easy to start. Most of the items you need to put in an emergency kit are already in your house because you want to include things like clothes and food, and you don't want to be stuck with food that you don't enjoy eating. So it's also really important when you're packing your emergency kit not to just go based off of something that you found on Google. It's really important to make sure you're packing food that you want to eat. We also talk about having things like comfort items, especially when we talk about maybe grandkids or kids, having stuffed animals or things that bring them comfort, because emergencies can be really scary and really stressful. We also talk about medical devices. So if you have a medical device at home, you really want to make sure you have paperwork information on what those are. Things like the manufacturer, what type of device you have, and even a serial number if it's included. Because a lot of companies will actually help you replace devices for free if you lost them in a disaster. But the only way you can do that is if you know what you have.
So that would be an example of a CPAP machine.
Yeah. We also have seen it with things like hearing aids. Some hearing aid companies are really happy to replace batteries or full systems. But you have to be able to prove that you had one pre-disaster.
Okay. So let's go back to food for a second, because I would imagine that what we're talking about, you know, it's not like you're going to be having things for gourmet meals. Quick things. So give us an example of what would go in a go bag if you had to bug out really quick.
Well, you want shelf-stable things, right? So we want to update our emergency kits, but we don't want to have to do it every week because something's gone bad. So we talk about things like protein bars or granola bars. Canned food is really great, but it's also really important to keep a can opener with your canned food.
A manual
can opener, because power doesn't always work, so we can't always depend on our electronics. And so when we're talking about food, we're talking about things like that. But like I said, you don't want to end up with something you're never going to eat. So, you know, if you hate tuna, don't pack cans of tuna.
That's a no-brainer, it would seem. But people are like, no, but it's shelf-stable, so I'm going to put it in my, my kit. So how can we practice emergency response? I know that we have Preparedness Month and we have tornado drills. I mean, are these things that are pretty much scheduled, like at the same time every year? Or how do we practice?
They definitely can be. So there's tons of ways to get involved and practice your emergency plans. If you want to get involved in your communities, September, which is Emergency Preparedness Month, is a great way. There's tons of community events that happen surrounding emergency preparedness where you can find information and practice. We also do a tornado drill and an earthquake drill annually as a county, which you can find information that we publish on our website and our newsletter. But additionally, it doesn't need to be a grand adventure. You can practice your emergency plans by yourself, with your family. Whoever is in your plan should be practicing your plan. You can make it a game. You know, whoever wins can choose dinner that night. It doesn't always have to be some big planned thing. You don't need to wait on anybody to do it. You can always just practice it yourself as well.
I like that idea of gamifying.
Yes.
That's great. And so now, what, just in case you have to evacuate or leave the house, is it a good idea to have sort of a meeting place that is set up ahead of time? How would something like that be? How would you do that?
Absolutely. In your emergency plan, you should have a location where you and your family or anybody that you're meeting meets regardless of what's happening, right? Because if we're talking about a big emergency or big disaster, you may not have access to your phone or your phone may not work like we're expecting it to. So we need to know where we're going to meet people regardless if we can communicate with them on our telephones.
And so I know in our earlier segment, we talked about the different types of emergencies and its nature. Some of them are man-made. I talked with Courtney about the gas explosion in Centerville. So what steps could those people that lived in that vicinity have taken to make it less stressful? I guess obviously having a go bag.
Yes. I mean, emergencies are always going to be stressful. It's really about how can we be prepared to make it a little less stressful,
Yes, yes.
right? So in the case of Centerville, having a go bag would have been really, really helpful,
Yeah.
right? These are people who got woken up in the middle of the night and told that they had to leave their homes as soon as they could. And a go bag is something that you can grab in 2 minutes or less.
Right.
And then that would have given people comfort items, food, extra clothes for at least a couple of days.
Right.
Because in Centerville, people were allowed to be escorted back to their homes after it was designated to be safe, but that's not always the case. Unfortunately, we can't always let people go back and grab items. So having those go bags is really great.
And it's not like they were able to go back to their house within a day or two. I mean, there was some time that I believe that elapsed before they could go back. So that's why it's important to have a change of clothes and some provisions and things of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's also really important to keep medication,
Right.
right? Because you can usually get your medication replaced if it's damaged or lost, but that may take a few days.
Right. So I think the very first, and I know that I talked to Courtney about this, but I think the very first place to start is the Community Emergency Response Guide. And I believe that that's online.
Yes.
So if you could tell me the website, and then is that the best starting place?
Yeah, the CERG, the Community Emergency Response Guide, is a great place to start. It is available on our website, which is fairfaxcounty.gov/emergency management. And not only is that available in English, but it is also actually available in 5 other languages. So that is available in Spanish and Korean, Vietnamese, and Mandarin.
And that's great because, I mean, Fairfax County is just a melting pot
Yes.
of so many different cultures. So I'm glad to hear that. And so the information, the first stop, because I know there's a lot of websites out there, but I think the first stop is the website that you had mentioned on the county website. That's a good starting point.
Yeah, so our website is a great starting place because it has templates that you can use and checklists, so it makes things a little bit simpler. And then it also has links to a ton of other things, right? If you're trying to find more consistent information, we have social media on all platforms at Ready Fairfax that folks can look at. Additionally, the county has an emergency blog, so this is a place to get real uploaded videos and photos of what's going on in the county, right? So during Centerville, there were daily or almost daily updates when available on exactly what was happening.
What is it that brought you to where you are in the county, the work that you do? Tell me a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. So I have been in the county for about a year, but before this, I was still doing disability emergency management work. So what brought me here was the job. I love what I do. Previously, when I was in Texas, I worked for the Texas Council for Developmental Disabilities doing emergency management training. So training emergency managers like myself on how to be more accessible and inclusive. And accessibility is just really a passion project of mine.
Excellent. And so basically, with mature living, it's really geared to the older adult. With the last 20 seconds or so that we have left, I mean, emergency preparedness with regard to that population, any words of wisdom?
I would say definitely sign up for Fairfax Alerts if you have not. If we can't reach you, we can't alert you. And we also have a program called Community Connect. This is an address-based program that people can go on and put information about themselves and their families. And then any information that is shared with that actually shows up for 911 dispatchers and any first responders if they're ever called to your address.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I could continue talking with you, but we've got to end it there. Thank you so much, Crystal, for joining me today.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching this edition of Mature Living. I'm Fran Guasta-Desengi, and we'll see you next time.